Oh, hello everybody. This is Chuck Wiger. I'm at the state capitol, and the favorite part of the position of being a state senator is meeting with constituents. And I'm really happy today. Jen Honsa from Maplewood is here. Welcome to the state capitol.
Nice to meet you.
And I should say welcome back. You have testified at committee hearings and at an education committee, which I'm a member of. So I want to thank you for your activism.
Thank
and you're going to be asking me some questions
Yes,
as a
I will.
part of a class that Mr. Hagel has. So we're going to turn it over to you, Jen Honsa, and you can ask questions. And again, welcome. And for our viewers too, if you want to just share that you're in Maplewood, that you live in Maplewood and you're a student at
I'm
North High.
a senior at North High School in North St. Paul,
Yes.
and my dad also teaches there, and so it's nice to have family there that works within the system.
Great. He's a strong, passionate advocate of civics
yes.
and as well as football. We're just coaching over at Hamlin.
Very big at football. Very
Great.
big.
Okay, Jen.
Okay, so the bill that I wanted to ask you on is the one about dyslexia and trying to get students help with dyslexia within the school
Yes.
systems. What made you choose to be the author of that bill?
It's a very important concern in Minnesota as well as across the country, dyslexia. And we have found there's tens of thousands of students that have dyslexia, a reading disorder where everything just doesn't quite come together. And it's very frustrating for that student, for teachers, for parents, and all combined, especially if the condition for dyslexia is not diagnosed. And so what has really brought attention to the Capitol on this, Jen, would be parents. Rachel Berger, in particularly, she's with the organization called Decoding Dyslexia Minnesota, and I recall meeting with her a few years ago, and it's testimonials, and sharing about her family and other families, and people have come forward sharing what it's like to have dyslexia and saying we want others to get help. And with that, with my involvement on the education committee, I was very moved and felt a responsibility to do what we could. So becoming aware of the issue through parents, the grassroots efforts, and I'll add that you've been a part of that as well in sharing concerns. And rallies at the Capitol where lots of students and loved ones, others, teachers have shared their concerns. So that's overall how I became aware of the issue and have become further involved and an advocate for making changes.
I know, because my younger sister is severely dyslexic, and it's hard watching her struggle. So that's why I'm very passionate about this bill, to help her get help and help other children like her get the help that they need.
Well, thank you, again so much for that advocacy. And again, early identification so that the teachers are better trained, and we're looking at ways of providing additional funds for doing that, getting a specialist at the Department of Education. So as we sit, it's all in consideration in what we call the Omnibus Education Bill. And over the next few weeks, we hope to have very good news.
What have you done to try to get this bill passed and get this bill help push this bill through?
Okay. Well, in earlier sessions when I was chair of education, I had been a co-author of the bill. I had included it in our Senate Omnibus Education Bill, and then when we got to conference committee, provisions didn't quite make it. Though it was in the Senate bill, it was asking for appropriations. If you're going to hire additional staff and specialists, et cetera, it does cost money, and there wasn't quite enough money back then. Now we have a 1.6 billion surplus. There's additional funds. The need is still there. And so what I've done, though I'm in the minority now in terms of the political makeup here, I'm the lead Democrat for the E12 Finance Committee, and I've been a co-author of the bill. I have spoken in favor of the bill, been at your rally, and a strong supporter. So doing whatever I can. I also made comments on the Senate floor. So advocating it, and as a member of the conference committee now, it's in play, that issue, and I've expressed the strong support for doing it. So now it's just a matter of the negotiations by the top leaders of the Republican Party with input from Democrats and of course with Governor Dayton. But that's been in my involvement right up to today.
What do you have to do in order to like make a bill? Not specifically the one with dyslexia, but just any bill in particular.
You go to the reviser of statutes where they write the language in the legislative language so that it would be reflected with our existing laws and or amendments to existing laws. And so I would go to the reviser and ask them to prepare the draft, and then it's a bill for an act, and then it will have the subject listed in it. Ideas for bills come from students, parents, people of all walks of life, and then we'll work on that language, but ultimately it's with the reviser's office, and that's a nonpartisan office that just puts the language in the form that we can proceed to debate it. And then you get a bill for the Senate and a proposal for the House, get authors, and then it's introduced, and then its journey begins, and you can follow that online to see the status for any bill. Okay. And for me, all the bills that I've sponsored, co-authored, are listed on my website.
How has this bill affected you in your life, the dyslexia bill?
Just the most satisfaction I get as a legislator is trying to help people that need additional assistance, that are determined to make an improvement in their lives, but they just need additional help. And I am convinced that by having early identification on the reading disorders, that getting a specialist involved is going to provide much more hope for these young people that are affected by dyslexia, and that includes their family. It affects the teachers and it affects their future. It gives a sense of hope. So it inspires me when I can be part of a movement.
Have you had to work with Republicans to create this bill, and was that hard for you being a Democrat working with a Republican?
Absolutely, we need to work together, and we almost always do. Most any substantial legislation that I've been involved here has bipartisan authors, and in this case, a big shout out goes to Senator Roger Chamberlain. When we were in the majority as Democrats, Roger was the chief author. I know there's a lot of parents in his district, Rachel Berger and others, and that's who they first went to. And they went to Representative Linda Runbeck, and that's what you suggest to people: contact your legislator. And he was the person. He was receptive, and Roger reached out to me, both sides, let's work together, provided hearings. In fact, when we were in charge, I had suggested to Roger that we'll have a hearing in conjunction with the Decoding Dyslexia Day at the Capitol, and as many people come into that room as we can. So absolutely, we need to work together, and I enjoy that.
Which part of this bill do you think is most important? This diagnosing children early, or which part?
Well, they're all important. Having the specialist, which is going to provide assistance to the local schools, the specialist at the Department of Education, the training for the teachers, and actually too in the past we've had provisions for some tax relief for the additional amounts that parents have to spend just to get outside help, tutors for their kids, and we were giving some tax credits before. But Jen, I'd say the most important part on this is early identification. If you get that early diagnosis, earlier the better. If it could happen in preschool, that would be great. But the earlier the intervention, then we have recognition and a plan of action. And so with a diagnosis, a prognosis of what the issue is, then you come up with a plan of action to address it. So early is good. So the early identification would be the most important part. And then after you identify, it's coming up with a plan. and sticking to that. So
How would this affect the older children in the school system, high schoolers and middle schoolers with early diagnosis?
okay. Well, it's still required to identify. It's going to be a lot later. It's going to be an increasing challenge, but better late than never. So whatever we can, they still have their whole life ahead of them, and you do the best that you can. And hey, we got it. You know, sometimes people live with untreated diagnosis, when whatever that issue or challenge might be, for a good chunk of their life. So if you can still get them in high school or whenever that is, let's be hopeful that there can be the needed help to address that.
And with the school systems, would they get extra help within a school or within the school district?
Okay. Well, it would be in the school district, and then the schools get money in our formula, and through different programs it goes to the school district. We have an elected school board. They hire a superintendent, and then through but the money comes from the communities around the state, and then through taxes it goes to Department of Revenue, but then we reallocate it on what we see as the priorities of our state. And I would see that for the provision for the district for early identification and for training, that would be for the school board to allocate as to how it would most effectively use it for programs. The appropriation for the literacy specialists and for dyslexia, that would be in the Minnesota Department of Education.
Okay. Where is the bill at now, and has any part of it been accepted or rejected?
Okay. Right now, Jen, it's in conference committee. When the House and the Senate each pass a bill, and this is a major bill, education, it's the biggest part of our state budget. It's over 18 billion, not million, almost 18.5 billion out of our $45 billion two-year budget. It's our highest priority, education, and it's in a conference committee. There are 10 members, 8 Republicans, 2 Democrats. I'm one of those members on the conference committee. We've had 4 or 5 meetings, and it's been brought up, but we're waiting to hear what the amount of money allocated to our committee will be. That could be any time. There's negotiations with our highest leaders now and the governor. Once the education bill has what we call a target for negotiations, then we can get into more specifics. Is it going to be an additional 300 million, 400, 500? And so those are big numbers, but that's what putting a budget is about. And so it's in negotiations as we speak. And again, hopefully we're going to have that resolved within a couple of weeks.
Who decides which bills get looked at and which ones don't?
The chair of the committee.
Is there anything I should know about this bill, or how to make a bill be looked at?
You know quite a bit. Being involved, you could actually train people about the process and bills becoming laws. The whole Honsa family has stepped up and
Yes.
been active, and so it's all about putting concerns and those stories, those real life episodes, and have it reflected in that bill. It's a request, the bill. Have a strong author in Senator Roger Chamberlain. You have had a very strong author. He's been very passionate on the floor. I've been a very supportive co-author as well. And you just want to follow it. You want to be persistent. You have a state organization through the Decoding Dyslexia Minnesota, and that's very helpful, this grassroots. So following it there, you have a website, which I just mentioned, and so you can get an update just by going to that, or by going to the Senate or House web pages, and you can get updates on that. So that's what happens, and then it's people sharing their concerns, telling us. Everybody gets an A+ in my area for their involvement, and now let's hope the mission gets accomplished, and most importantly, then that needed assistance will be provided for those tens of thousands of kids and young people that need it. So we'll keep our fingers crossed.
Yes.